welcome back to The Villains. If you are new around here, make sure you are subscribing, get on the journey with us, hit that like button and comment your thoughts on Aston Villa 4, Newcastle United 1. Just going to say the reaction to the episode that I did before this game regarding tactically Villa and Newcastle went down so well. So many Newcastle fans were praising the content that I created, so I just want to thank you all. If you are watching this one, it's highly appreciated from myself. Really glad you enjoyed it, and just thank you very much for all the kind words, etc. So we're going to do a bit of a debrief on how Aston Villa beat Newcastle. What did Villa do? But it was, from a Villa point of view, it was a great game. I thought we were magnificent. I think that's probably the best we've played so far all season, really. We've had some good moments, and I think yesterday was one of those. I think Unai Emery did a bit of a tactical masterclass, and we're going to break it down. We're going to go into it. We're going to take a look at it. So grab yourself a brew, enjoy, and let's get stuck in. So what did Aston Villa do against Newcastle United? We spoke about before the game that it was vitally important that we dominate midfield. We tried to get to grips with the Newcastle midfield because it is exceptional. Tonali, Joelinton, Guimaraes, very good, very strong, very solid, and you have to win that battle. And we saw early on that Villa were winning first ball, second balls, and that sort of just gave us a little bit of a foothold into the game. But Unai Emery did something totally different to what we normally do and how we normally play. Villa generally will play with a wide right player that might stay high and wide, but they will focus in and around that area. But against Newcastle United, what Emery decided to do was target the Newcastle right back in Trippier. And here we can see the average positions from both sides. We've got Villa in the red and we've got Newcastle in the blue. So you can see you've got two wide players of Newcastle, Isak. We've got the midfield three. We've got Trippier, Livramento. We've got Shaw and we've got Burn. And then Villa are in the red. What you can see is that Villa targeted the right back of Newcastle United. Every attacking Villa player is on this side of the pitch. You can see from the heat maps that every single attacking player, Tielemans, Asensio, Rodgers and Watkins, all have a heat zone in and around this area. And what you can see is that Villa decided to relinquish the right-hand side. We had hardly any interest of attacking in this area. Matty Cash got forward a little bit, but this was the area that Villa really wanted to target and really wanted to dominate. And we know that Newcastle have an overload with our midfield too. So you've got Kamara and you've got Tielemans. They're outnumbered by that three of Newcastle. So it was imperative that Villa dragged players into this area and managed to try and get a foothold in this game. So average position-wise, you can see what Emery's plan was to do. Target Trippier and win those battles and win those duels. So before the game, we spoke about Newcastle going man for man on Aston Villa. And this was something that Unai Emery targeted as well. Most important player when you go man for man is the goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper is always the spare man. He can sometimes operate as a ball playing centre back when he's got the ball. And going man for man, what you want from your goalkeeper is the distribution to be exceptional. And yesterday against Newcastle, Emi Martinez's distribution was exquisite. It was first class. Because he knew that he was going to get time on the ball, because if then the attacker then goes to Martinez, then you've got your free man here, and then you can start moving up the football pitch and dragging players out of position. But Martinez's distribution was so good. And one thing that Aston Villa did was, again, we targeted the right back. And what we decided to do when Martinez had the ball is we tried to create an overload. So what happened was, instead of Watkins staying central, Watkins went to the left-hand side from a Villa point of view. What that enabled us to do was hit the balls to this area, win the flick-ons, and then we started to see Watkins, when he hit the post, he was able to drive forward because we've got that flick-on. What else it enables us to do is if we drag in players out of position, so we drag Shah out of position to that sort of left-hand side from a Villa point of view, what it then ends up doing is opening space in this area. You then start leaving Dan Burn isolated on his own as well. So he was able to bypass the midfield. And why we want to do that is because it's very difficult to play through this Newcastle midfield. I believe Villa can do it. We can play through that midfield. But we decided to relinquish that and go longer. We went longer and we was able to get so much joy by being able to do that. We've done it before against Newcastle at home when John McGinn was put up against Dan Burn, and McGinn had a really good game up against Dan Burn. I think it was 2 seasons ago. But we did it on the opposite side and we completely switched it up. So we was able to get a lot of joy by bypassing and going a lot longer as well. Ian Maatsen had a fantastic game for Villa. He was really good. But Yuri Tielemans was exceptional. Kamara was exceptional. And it posed Newcastle a lot of problems. And I think by the end of the game, I think Newcastle players were a little bit confused of whether to stick, whether to go. And I think what we was able to do as well is, with Martinez's distribution, we was able to just drag players around the pitch, really. We saw Morgan Rogers for the 1 goal, finding a lot of space on his own, little dink. We was able to really play through that Newcastle United team as well. But I thought first half, at half time, I was thinking if I was a neutral in this, I'd be really, really engrossed in this game, because it was, I think Villa edged the first half, but I think Newcastle had a spell as well. And I just thought it was 2 teams being bright. I think there's been a lot made of football recently of teams being boring and the Premier League's being boring, but I think we were the 2 informed teams, and we both did try and go about the game in a really good way. And I think with Villa, we've been able to show this season that we can go through little blitzes and blitz teams, and we saw that with the flurry of goals towards, sort of like the 70-minute mark. But Villa were very good at finding the spare player, and I think that's probably what won this game for Aston Villa. But, one of the other most important things about when you are playing against this Newcastle United side is that you have to be able to win your battles. You have to be able to win your duels as well. And I think from a Villa point of view, that was really pleasing to see, because Newcastle are very physical, they're very strong, they dominate the opposition. And I think, if you take a look at ground duels, Villa won 56% of the ground duels. Newcastle won 56% of the aerials. Villa had 64% successful dribbles. We'd won 79% of our tackles compared to Newcastle winning 42% of theirs. So those numbers were really good. But what else we was able to do is we were able to win a lot of the battles individually as well. If we take a look at Shah's numbers from this game, he had 2 ground duels and he won 0. He had 3 aerial duels and he won 0. We have a look at Dan Burn at the same time as well. Dan Burn, he had 2 ground duels and won 0. Aerials, he had 3 and he won 1. So we really targeted the back line of Newcastle. We were able to win those duels. From a Villa point of view, some of the numbers of our duels were really good at the same time as well. Boubacar Kamara, he had 6 duels and he won 3. I think aerially, Villa were dominant as well. Tyrone Mings, he had 3 aerial successful out of 6 as well. So his duels were really good. Yuri Tielemans, he had He had 8 duels won out of 12, 3 aerials won out of 4. So we did dominate in a lot of the areas, and I just think from a Villa fan, it was just so pleasing to see the calibre of team that Newcastle are, the way in which we was able to play, the magnitude of the game. I think a lot of people have looked at Villa's fixtures and thought, oh, they've got really tough games, but you know, we've been able to beat all of the teams that are in and around us. We've beat Brighton, we've beat Forest, we've beat Newcastle. So, yeah, I think Villa definitely are better against better opposition. I thought Newcastle's best player was Livramento. I thought he was really good. Powerful runner, massive threat. We was able to limit Isak to, I don't think he had a shot, did he? So that was great from a Villa point of view. His touches were quite low as well, so that was really good. But the game plan of Villa to go longer and to bypass that midfield, I think that's the game plan that won it for Aston Villa, and fair play to Unai Emery. I think for Villa as well, that I think at parts this season we've really struggled against teams that go man for man, but I think recently we're starting to really get to grips and get a lot better. I thought against Forest we weren't that great second half, but against PSG we were brilliant when they played man for man, and I think when Newcastle played man for man, I thought Villa were exceptional yesterday. So I just really wanted to react to the game a little bit, just break it down, because the episode that I did before the game, you know, went down really well. So, you know, I just thought it was fair that I came back on and highlighted where I feel like Villa did end up winning this game. So I think fair play to Newcastle, great support at Villa Park, and hopefully you have a good rest of the season as well. So Villa, we've got 2 days off now before we play again, and then we've got a massive week with Wembley at the weekend as well. So cheers everyone for watching. Up the Villa. Actually, it's up the Villains. Up the Villains.